Now settle in. This won't take long, but it might change everything. My name is Martha Rose. I'm 102 years old. I live alone. I cook every meal from scratch. And the last time I was seriously ill was so long ago, I cannot honestly remember what decade it was in. The doctors who spent their careers telling me my diet was going to kill me are themselves no longer with us. I'm still here, still cooking, still eating exactly what I please. Make of that what you will. Now I want to address something right at the start before we go any further. They have made nutrition so complicated that most people have given up entirely and just eat whatever the television tells them to. Low fat, then high fat. No eggs, then eggs are fine. Red wine is good, red wine is bad. Carbs will kill you, but also you need carbs. Child, please. The people generating all that confusion have financial arrangements with the people selling you the solution to the confusion they just created. I do not have any financial arrangements with anyone. I have 102 years of eating real food and remaining functional, and that is the only credential I am going to offer you today. It is, I would argue, the only credential that actually matters. Real wisdom about food does not come from a laboratory or a marketing department. It comes from the land, from grandmothers, from people who grew things and cooked things and lived long enough to know what worked. My daddy used to say the secret to everything was moderation and obedience. Obedience to what nature provided, moderation in how much of it you took. He was not a complicated man. He lived a long, healthy life. I've tried to follow his example. Today I'm going to tell you about 5 foods that have been on my table every single day of my adult life. Not superfoods in a capsule. Not powders you mix into water that costs $40 a bag. Real foods. Foods that cost almost nothing. Foods that the good Lord put on this earth and that your great-grandmother would have recognized immediately. These 5 foods are, in my studied and lived opinion, the foundation of why I am still standing. Let's go through them. Number 1. Garlic. Raw, crushed, unapologetic. Let me tell you when I knew garlic was serious business. I was a young girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, watching my grandmother prepare food in her kitchen. Everything she cooked started with garlic. Not a polite amount. A real amount. She would crush those cloves with the flat of a heavy knife, peel them without ceremony, and let them sit on the cutting board while she prepared everything else. I asked her once why she always let the garlic sit before she put it in the pot. She looked at me like I had asked why the sky was up and said, "Because it needs time to wake up, child." Everything good needs time to wake up. She did not know the science. But she was exactly right. When you crush or chop garlic, a compound called allicin is produced. That is the medicine activating, the way a key turns in a lock. And it needs about 10 minutes to fully develop before heat touches it. My grandmother knew this from observation from her mother's mother. A chain of knowledge passing down through women who paid attention. Now they will tell you garlic is just a seasoning, a flavor enhancer, something you use sparingly so as not to overwhelm a dish or offend your dinner companions. Those people have not lived long enough to know what they are talking about. Garlic protects the heart. It lowers blood pressure. It fights bacterial infections, fungal infections, viral infections. It supports the immune system in ways that pharmaceutical companies would charge you enormously for if they could put it in a pill and patent it. The ancient Egyptians fed garlic to the workers building the pyramids to maintain their strength under brutal conditions. When the Israelites were wandering in the wilderness, the thing they missed most from Egypt was the garlic. Not the comfort, not the architecture, the garlic. Because they understood instinctively that it was keeping them strong. I eat garlic every single day, raw when I can manage it, a crushed clove in my salad dressing, in my beans, in whatever I'm preparing. Cooked when the dish calls for it, but always added at the end so the heat does not destroy what is most valuable. I've done this my whole adult life and I intend to continue. The good Lord made it pungent on purpose. That sharpness is the medicine announcing itself. Do not apologize for it. Eat your garlic. Number 2, raw honey. Not the bear-shaped bottle. The real thing. Now here is where I have to be very specific, because there is honey and then there is honey, and they are not the same product. The stuff in the little plastic bear at the grocery store has been heated, filtered, processed and stripped of most of what made it valuable in the first place. What remains is essentially sugar water with a honey flavour. That is not what I am talking about. Raw, unprocessed honey, the kind that comes directly from the hive, that is cloudy or crystallized, that smells like the flowers the bees visited, that is an entirely different substance. It contains living enzymes, antioxidants, antimicrobial compounds, pollen, trace minerals, things that the heating process destroys completely. My grandmother kept bees. We had hives at the back of the property, and in the late summer when the honey was pulled, the kitchen would smell like warm sweetness and flowers and something ancient that I cannot quite name, but that I would recognize anywhere on this earth. She put raw honey in her tea, on her bread, in her remedies for coughs and sore throats. She said it was the most complete food the Lord ever made, because it kept almost forever and healed almost everything. She was not wrong about either of those things. Archaeologists have found 3,000-year-old honey in Egyptian tombs that was still perfectly edible. No other food on earth does that. And the antimicrobial properties are real. Raw honey was used to dress wounds before modern antibiotics existed, and the research confirms it was effective. They told us honey was just sugar and we should avoid it. They pushed artificial sweeteners instead, substances made in a laboratory that your body does not recognize as food and that studies have connected to all manner of problems. Child, please. I will take the substance bees have been perfecting for millions of years over something invented in a chemistry laboratory in 1965. I put raw honey in my morning tea every day. A spoonful, no more than that. Moderation, as my daddy always said. Enough to let the medicine work without overwhelming the body with sweetness. The good Lord made it taste like a reward on purpose. That is His way. He hides the medicine in the pleasure. Number 3, olive oil. Real olive oil. Every single day. I've already talked about olive oil in the context of Scripture and what the Bible understood about it. But I want to talk about it today as food, as the daily, foundational, non-negotiable cornerstone of how I cook and eat. They spent decades telling us fat was the enemy. Low fat this, fat-free that. Remove the fat and replace it with sugar and chemicals to make it palatable again. That nutritional advice, pushed by processed food companies with significant financial interests in selling you low-fat products full of ingredients you cannot pronounce, did more damage to public health than I have words to express. The people who invented that guidance have not, as a group, distinguished themselves with exceptional longevity. I have. My mother cooked with olive oil. Not as a health choice. She did not frame it that way. She cooked with it because it was what her mother used, because it tasted good, because it made everything better. She drizzled it on vegetables, used it as a base for everything that went into a pan, put it on bread, stirred it into beans. It was as natural and unremarkable to her as water. And she stayed clear-headed and physically capable into very old age, which I am convinced is not unconnected to that olive oil. Here is what the oil contains in plain language. It is loaded with what scientists call polyphenols. That is just a fancy word for the living protective compounds that give real olive oil its colour, its peppery bite, its smell. Those compounds reduce inflammation throughout the body. And inflammation, chronic, low-grade, constant inflammation, is the underlying condition beneath almost every disease associated with aging. Heart disease, cognitive decline, joint deterioration, cancer. Inflammation is the soil those diseases grow in. Olive oil is one of the most powerful natural tools available for keeping that soil inhospitable. Get extra virgin cold-pressed in a dark bottle. It should smell like grass and pepper. It should have a bite at the back of your throat when you swallow it. That bite is the polyphenols. That is the medicine. If your olive oil tastes like nothing, it has been processed into nothing. Spend a little more. It is worth every cent. I use it every day. I put it on everything. I have done so my entire life, and I will continue to do so until the Lord calls me home, at which point I will have no further need of it. Number 4. Beans, slow cooked, properly prepared, deeply underestimated. Now this is the one people overlook. This is the one that does not photograph well for social media and does not come in an exciting package and does not have a celebrity attached to it. This is the humble one. And in my experience, the humble things are almost always the most important. Every culture that produces a significant number of people who live past 100 has beans at the centre of their diet. Every single one. Researchers have noticed this. They call it a blue zone pattern, which is just a scientific way of saying that the people who live longest all seem to eat a lot of beans. I could have told them that. I did not need a research expedition to figure it out. My mother cooked beans every week. Pinto beans, black beans, butter beans, lentils, whatever she had, cooked low and slow on the back of the stove until they were tender and rich and thick with their own liquid. She seasoned them with onion and garlic and a little salt and whatever herbs were in the garden. She served them with cornbread or over rice, or just in a bowl with a drizzle of olive oil on top. It was not a poor meal. It was a complete meal. A perfect meal, really, in terms of what it gave the body. Beans are protein. Beans are fibre, the kind that feeds what scientists call your microbiome, which is just the community of living bacteria in your gut that runs more of your health than most people understand. A healthy gut means a strong immune system, good mental health, proper digestion, stable blood sugar. Those bacteria in your gut, they need to be fed the right things. And beans are one of the best things you can feed them. My third husband, Thomas, Lord, I still miss that man. He used to say my beans were the reason he felt so well. He may have been flattering me. He was good at that. But he was also probably right. Soak your dried beans overnight before you cook them. Change the water. Cook them slowly. Do not open a can if you can help it. The canned ones work in a pinch, but they are not the same experience for your body or your soul. The long, slow cooking is part of the process. Good things take time. Beans take time. A long life takes time. It is all related. Number 5, eggs, the whole egg. Every morning, without guilt or apology. And here we are at the last one, the most controversial one, the one I have the most to say about. They told us for decades that eggs would kill us. The cholesterol in the yolk would go straight to our arteries and block them up, and we would drop dead of heart attacks. They scared an entire generation away from one of the most nutritionally complete foods on this earth. And while people were throwing away their egg yolks and eating egg white omelettes with fat-free cheese, the rates of heart disease did not go down. Not even slightly, because eggs were never the problem. Every doctor who told me to stop eating eggs is no longer in a position to give dietary advice. I've eaten eggs every morning of my life and I am 102. I will let the evidence speak for itself. My mother collected eggs from our chickens every single morning. I can still see her walking back from the hen house with her apron gathered up, eggs nested in the cloth, the early morning light coming through the trees. She would scramble them in a cast iron pan with butter, real butter, and put them on the table with whatever else was ready. There was no guilt about it. There was no hesitation. There was just the understanding that this was good food that the Lord had provided and that it would fuel the day's work. An egg is one of the most complete foods in existence. The yolk, the part they told you to throw away, contains fat-soluble vitamins, choline, which is essential for brain function, healthy fats, and compounds that protect your eyes as you age. The white is nearly pure protein. The whole egg together is what the Lord designed, and the whole egg together is what your body knows what to do with. Now I am talking about real eggs, from hens that see sunlight and walk on grass and eat what chickens are meant to eat. Those eggs have deep orange yolks and they taste like something. The pale yolked eggs from chickens that never see the outside of a building are nutritionally diminished by comparison. When you can get real eggs from real chickens, your local farm stand, your neighbour who keeps chickens, the farmer's market, it is worth the extra effort. I eat 2 eggs every morning. Scrambled soft in a little butter or olive oil with whatever herbs I have on hand, a little fresh chive, some parsley, a pinch of the dried thyme from last summer. Simple. Fast. Perfect. It has started every one of my mornings for as long as I can remember, and I am not inclined to change. The good Lord designed the egg to contain everything a new life needs to grow. It contains everything your existing life needs to keep going. That is not a coincidence. That is provision. Now let me tell you what ties all 5 of these foods together. Because there is a thread running through them that is more important than any individual vitamin or compound or scientific explanation. Every one of these foods is real. Oh. Recognizable. Close to the form in which the Lord made it. None of them come in a package with 20 ingredients. None of them require a laboratory. None of them need a health claim printed on a box to convince you they are good for you, because they have been feeding human beings for thousands of years, and the results speak for themselves. The further food gets from its original form, the less your body knows what to do with it. That is the simple truth that underlies everything I have told you today. Garlic from the ground, honey from the hive, oil pressed from the olive, beans grown in the soil, eggs from a hen. These are foods your body recognizes at a cellular level because your ancestors have been eating them for millennia. Your body knows these. It knows what to do with them. The processed, engineered, laboratory-assembled products that now fill most grocery stores, your body does not know what those are. It does its best. But it is working with materials it was not designed for, and over time that mismatch accumulates. My daddy said obedience and moderation. Obey what nature provides. Practice moderation in how much you take. Those 2 principles, applied consistently across a lifetime, are worth more than any supplement ever manufactured. But I will close with this, because I do not want you to leave here thinking food is the whole answer. It is not. I've known people who ate beautifully and still went to early graves. And I have known people who ate imperfectly and lived long and well, because there is something underneath the food that matters more than the food. There is the state of the spirit that the food is feeding. A body that carries chronic anger, that holds grudges like savings, that runs on worry and fear and unresolved grief. That body is working against itself no matter what you put in it. I have watched bitterness eat people from the inside in ways that no amount of garlic could have fixed. And I have watched joy and purpose and faith sustain people through physical conditions that should have finished them. I have buried 3 husbands. I have outlived 2 of my own children, which is the particular cruelty of a very long life. I have had seasons of grief so heavy the floor felt soft under my feet. And what carried me through was not my diet. It was my faith that this life has meaning, and that I am still in it for a reason, and that the Lord who made me has not yet finished with me. Eat your garlic and your honey and your olive oil and your beans and your eggs. Feed that body well. It is worth feeding. It is a gift on loan, and you owe it good stewardship. But also, feed your spirit. Forgive the people who owe you forgiveness. Let go of the things that are already over. Find what makes you laugh and do more of it. Love the people who are still here to be loved. Wake up tomorrow with a reason. That is the whole recipe. I've been cooking from it for 102 years. All right, my eggs are going to cook themselves if I don't get in there. You go eat something real today.